Family of a man found dead at ICE jail. They are suspecting foul play. Here it is.
Here's more proof that WS in this organization is literally unaliving people of color, including, yes, people that look like me. Because do you remember when a man of Chinese descent was found hanging in a detention center because he allegedly self-ejected 32-year-old Ge Chaofeng? Well, Chaofeng's family have filed a lawsuit against immigration because they had originally put in a request with immigration for some documents. Because, they're just trying to find out what happened to Chaofeng via the Freedom of Information Act back in September 9th. And they were legally supposed to respond by October 14th. But they didn't, so they filed a lawsuit. And even though back in August, Pennsylvania State Police originally stated that it was a self-ejection and they found a handwritten note and claimed that there was no foul play involved, according to the complaint filed on Thursday, Chaofeng was allegedly found hanging with his hands and legs tied behind his back. I'm sorry, how the not foul play? And apparently Chaofeng was only in isolation because nobody on the staff not only spoke Chinese, but not even attempted to try to get a translator.
Put a full mask. I told you all the first time I reported this story, it did not sound right. The lack of motive, the lack of oversight, and basically the family saying this does not sound like him. We have an update. The family of the man found dead at an ICE detention center, they are now suspecting foul play. When U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement first reported that the Chinese immigrant, Chaofeng, that his death in custody in Western Pennsylvania on August 6th, they said he was found dead the day before, hanging in the shower. It was because he unalived himself. That's what they told us. It was a cloth tied around his neck. It made no mention of additional bindings that were on his hands and on his feet. But on Wednesday, Chaofeng's family in Queens filed a lawsuit in Manhattan federal court to obtain records that may explain why he was found with his hands and his feet bound. David Rankin, an attorney representing the family, the older brother, said the additional details came from an autopsy that the Clearfield County, Pennsylvania coroner conducted. Chaofeng's death certificate lists that he unalived himself by hanging as the cause of death. But the autopsy report that, if nothing else, gives you the cause of death, either by way of homicide, meaning another person did it, or the individual engaged in a self-termination. The autopsy gave no clear explanation of how this was possible, he said. Chaofeng, 32 years of age, had been in Moshannon Valley Processing Center for 4 days. In a processing center for 4 days. ICE was holding him following his completion of a 6 to 12 month sentence on credit card fraud. So you're dealing with months, okay? 6 to 12 months in it. He was one of many New Yorkers to end up in the Phillipsburg, Pennsylvania lockup that the GEO Group runs. He is also one of 15 immigrants to have died while in ICE custody during the second Trump administration. So data from the Executive Office for Immigration Review, the Justice Department unit that runs the immigration courts, shows that ICE has been transferring greater numbers of detainees from New York to Moshannon. The number of these detainees transferred increased from 22 to 225 between 2022 to 2025. Advocacy groups have campaigned to shut down the facility, a former federal prison that is now the largest immigration jail in the Northeast. A 2024 report from Temple University concluded that the detainees there who reported being physically abused and emotionally isolated also cited quote, physical and psychological abuse by staff, ethnic, racial, and religious discrimination, medical negligence in the facility, while facing barriers to justice itself. Before I continue, I want to remind everyone of the work that Senator John Ossoff out of Georgia is doing around this very same issue. He started this work prior to ICE being what they have now become, and these detention centers being a hub of civil rights and human rights violations. He is continuing that effort. I encourage you to go to his website and check out his work. We will invite him on the show to provide an update. But what's documented in media is even more horrendous when you look at Senator Ossoff's investigation. At a news conference in Foley Square, Yang Feng and his attorney said Chaofeng's isolation was heightened by the Moshannon facility or facility's lack of a Mandarin translator. This doesn't make any sense, does it? You work for immigration, custom enforcement. You have no translator. You're in the business of international ordeals. You have no translator. The GEO group did not respond to documented email seeking comment. ICE did not address the family's allegation, but responded in a statement that, quote, all in custody deaths are tragic, taken seriously and are thoroughly investigated by law enforcement, end quote. When ICE disclosed the death, as required by law, by the way, its release stated that a licensed practical nurse had taken Chaofeng's medical history with the aid of a Mandarin interpreter during his intake assessment. The agency said it had, quote, documented his denial of any past medical or mental health condition, denial of medication usage, and released him into general population. That's according to the lawsuit. ICE failed to respond to a September 9th Freedom of Information Act, a FOIA request filed on behalf of Yang Feng, Chaofeng's only other relative in the U.S., according to the attorney. The attorney said he has said nothing to the family. ICE said it had arrested Chaofeng in July, on July 31st, based on a detainer filed with the Dauphin County Prison in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. He was being released from his sentence related to credit card fraud. So you have an individual, he's on the way out, not on the way in. He's having to deal with ICE because that's standard protocol now. And somehow he's found unalive. And the claim is, well, he did this to himself, even though he was bound in multiple places where that would seem quite impossible. The coroner report refuses to give a cause of death. They probably scared too of what ICE would do to them. And now you have a family seeking justice, just information as to what happened. I guarantee you this, while we may know of this incident, there are incidents that we don't. And that's why it's important to speak up when they're knocking at your neighbor's door, because you won't have neighbors to speak up when they're knocking at yours. All right, Sharon, thoughts here.
So this reminds me that no one in the government, no officials faced any kind of criminal charges for Japanese internment camps. Guantanamo Bay, maybe you tell me, Doc, but I don't recall the state-sanctioned atrocities. We're talking about potential murder and not following the law in reporting deadlines, right? As you mentioned, sometimes we're not hearing about things, sometimes we're hearing about things late, and then some floozy and lip gloss, sends out a statement that says all deaths are tragic. No, this is particularly tragic because it didn't need to be. We have swept up entire great percentages of populations, and it's sicko behavior. Because now we have a country who is dictating to others, although they did have the crown prince of Saudi Arabia in the Oval office today, or at least inside the people's house. I'll say that. So that speaks volumes about our commitment to human rights. This, when are we going to wake up? And I'm not suggesting, Doc, I'm almost done, that people aren't cognizant of this and they're not taking to the streets and no King's rallies and such that are millions of people, good people. But this is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs at this time.
Yeah.
This is, we've got to get back to some semblance of normal problematic America. And this ain't it, bruh. This just ain't it.